"You don't need that," my son-in-law yelled when he saw my dream travel trailer. "Tomorrow, my family and I are going on vacation, and we'll drop you off at a retirement home." I was shocked, but he didn't know I had a plan. When they hit the road, I sent him a message. "Look in the glove compartment." What he saw there made him stop, and that was just the beginning. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I signed my name across the bottom line, the pen steady in my hand. 35 years of selling insurance policies had taught me to read every clause, every condition, and this contract was clean. The Winnebago Vista sat 15 feet away in the Phoenix dealership lot, cream and bronze under the afternoon sun, windows gleaming like promises. $45,000 from my retirement account. Money I'd saved one careful dollar at a time. The salesman shook my hand and dropped the keys into my palm. "Congratulations, Mr. Bishop. She's all yours." I walked to the trailer alone, ran my fingers along the smooth fiberglass exterior. Inside, everything smelled new. I opened cabinet doors in the compact kitchen, tested the faucet, sat in the driver's seat, and gripped the wheel. The Grand Canyon first, I thought. Then Yellowstone. Maybe Montana before the snow came. Places I'd circled on maps for years while clients discussed their whole life policies and term conversions across my desk. Standing in the doorway, I pulled out my phone. Betty would want to know. She'd been asking about my retirement plans for months, suggesting I find hobbies, stay active. This was better than hobbies. This was freedom. I hesitated only a moment before dialing, my thumb hovering over her contact photo, her smile bright, her children on either side. Then I pressed call. "Dad?" Her voice came through flat, distracted. "Betty, honey, I did it. I bought the trailer, a Winnebago Vista, beautiful condition. I'm looking at it right now, and I can already picture the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, maybe even up to Montana." Silence stretched across the line. Not the good kind, not the pause before excitement, the kind that calculates. "How much did you spend?" Not congratulations. Not a single word about my plans or my happiness. Just numbers. I felt something small deflate inside my chest. 45,000. It's a solid investment, and I've been saving for this since... 45,000? She cut through my explanation like scissors through paper. "That's a lot of money. You could have spent it more wisely." I stood in the dealership parking lot, the keys growing warm in my fist. Cars passed on the street behind me. A family loaded groceries into an SUV 3 spaces over, their children laughing. "I thought you'd be happy for me. This is something I've wanted to do for years. I have to go. Zachary just got home. We'll talk later." The line went dead before I could respond. I stared at the phone screen. Call duration 2 minutes 38 seconds. That's all the time my dream deserved. I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine, listening to it purr. The drive home took 40 minutes through Scottsdale traffic, and I spent every minute trying to understand what more wisely meant. By evening, I'd parked the trailer in my driveway beside the house. The empty house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, spaces my wife had filled before cancer took her 4 years back. I made a sandwich, carried it to the trailer, spread maps across the small table. Route 66 memorabilia lined one route. National parks dotted another. My finger traced highways, but my mind kept returning to Betty's voice. That coldness, that immediate focus on cost rather than joy. More wisely, I picked up my phone twice, set it down twice. No follow-up call came. No text saying she was sorry for reacting poorly, that she was happy for me really, that Zachary had just walked in at a bad time. Nothing. The maps lay flat and colorful under the overhead light, but I couldn't find enthusiasm anymore. Outside the window, my house sat dark. One light in the kitchen, one in the trailer. An old man and his expensive mistake. I folded the maps carefully, creasing them along their original lines. Turned off the lamp above the table. Through the trailer window, I could see my house. Dark, empty. Exactly as it had been since retirement began 6 months ago. I told myself tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow I'd start fresh, plan the first real trip, maybe drive out to Sedona for a test run. I had no idea tomorrow would change everything. Morning coffee tasted bitter. I couldn't tell if I'd used too many grounds or if yesterday's conversation still coated my tongue. 8:30, and the kitchen window framed my trailer in perfect Arizona sunlight. Beautiful machine, beautiful waste, according to my daughter. I rinsed my cup, set it in the dish rack, and that's when I heard the car. Not the mail truck. Too early. Not a delivery van. I moved to the living room window and watched a black Lexus pull against the curb. Zachary stepped out, slammed the door, and walked toward my house with the stride of a man on a mission. No phone call ahead. No courtesy knock. The front door opened. I hadn't locked it. Rarely did in my neighborhood. And my son-in-law walked straight through my living room toward the kitchen. Wiley? Not Wiley. How are you? Not good morning. Just my name. Flat as a statement. The family talked it over. We need the trailer for a couple weeks. A 2-week vacation. We already made plans. I stood near the sink, still holding the dish towel. Processing. The family talked it over. When? Last night? While I sat alone with my maps. What? Zachary, what are you talking about? I just bought this yesterday. He moved past me, scanning the counter. Found what he wanted. My key ring, right where I'd left it, next to the coffee maker. The Winnebago key dangled on its branded fob. Yeah, Betty told me. $45,000. That's a lot for something you're not going to use much anyway. My hands tightened on the towel. Use much? I'd owned it less than 24 hours. Not going to use? I'm planning a trip across. At your age? He picked up the keys, examined them like he was inspecting produce. Come on, you don't need this. We can drop you at a senior facility on our way out, if that helps. The words hit like a physical blow. Senior facility. As if I were luggage to be stored. As if $45,000 of my money, my savings, my life, had been spent to provide his family a vacation vehicle. You can't just take my property. Those are my keys. But he was already moving toward the door, my keys in his fist. Young, confident, dismissive. We're family. We borrow things. That's how it works. We'll take good care of it. I stepped forward, reached out, but he was faster. 37 years old to my 63. He pulled open the front door, paused on the threshold to deliver his final courtesy. Thanks for understanding. We leave in the morning. Then he was gone. Down the walkway. Into the Lexus. The engine started smooth and expensive. I stood in my doorway, watching him drive away, my arms still extended like I might somehow pull him back, pull my keys back, pull my dignity back from wherever it had just been thrown. The Lexus turned the corner, disappeared. I stood there another full minute before my legs remembered how to move. I walked back inside, closed the door, locked it this time, stood in my kitchen where Zachary had stood, where he'd walked in without real permission and taken what he wanted. The family talked it over. Betty's coldness yesterday suddenly made perfect sense. She hadn't been disappointed in my purchase. She'd been calculating its value, measuring how they could use it. And that comment, "You could have spent it more wisely," that meant she'd already decided the money should have gone somewhere else. Probably to her. I walked to my bedroom, moving on autopilot, opened the top drawer of my dresser where I kept important documents, spare batteries, old watches, and there, on a small metal ring, the spare key set. The dealership had given me 2. Always have a backup, I'd learned in insurance. Always prepare for loss. I lifted the keys, felt their weight. Zachary thought he'd won, thought I'd accepted it, thought the old man would shuffle back to his empty house and let them take his dream for a 2-week vacation. 35 years in insurance had taught me patience. It had taught me to read people, to spot liars, to document everything. It had taught me that contracts work both ways, that assumptions are dangerous, and that the person you underestimate is often the one who destroys you. I sat down at my desk, the spare keys cold against my palm. Through the window I could see the trailer, still in my driveway, waiting, still mine, still full of maps and possibilities. Zachary would come back tomorrow morning expecting it ready, expecting me compliant. He'd knock on my door or maybe just walk in again, and he'd find out exactly how wrong he was about old men and senior facilities and borrowing things. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. I had calls to make. The spare keys sat on my desk while I pulled files from the cabinet. Insurance policies, mine, the house, the trailer, property deeds, investment statements. My will dated 3 years back when I'd updated it after my wife passed. Everything to Betty. Everything I'd worked for, saved, protected. I spread the documents across the desk surface and began reading. An insurance agent learns to think in contingencies. What if this happens? What coverage applies? What's the client's exposure? I applied that same analysis now, but the risk I was calculating had nothing to do with premiums or liability limits. The risk was my daughter and her husband believing they could humiliate me without consequence. The bedside clock read 2 a.m, then 4, then 6. Dawn came gray through the window, and I was still sitting there, still thinking. Betty's voice on that phone call, "How much did you spend?" hadn't been surprise. It had been inventory. Zachary's confidence walking into my house, taking my keys, mentioning a senior facility, that wasn't improvised cruelty. That was rehearsed, coordinated. The family talked it over. How long had they been planning this? I picked up my phone at 7:30 and scrolled through my contacts. Margaret Sullivan, attorney at law. I'd worked with her on estate planning after my wife died. Professional, thorough, expensive. I pressed call. "Ms. Sullivan, this is Wiley Bishop. I need to see you today about changing my will. It's urgent." Her voice carried that careful lawyer's neutrality. "Mr. Bishop, my schedule is completely... I'll pay double your hourly rate. This can't wait." A pause. Then, "I can move some things around. 2 o'clock? I'll be there." I showered, dressed in the gray suit I'd worn to client meetings for 3 decades, pressed white shirt, navy tie. When you're making decisions that matter, you dress like it matters. I made coffee, drank it standing at the kitchen counter, and left the house at 1:15. The drive to her Phoenix office took 40 minutes. I rehearsed what I'd say. Clinical. Factual. No emotion. Margaret Sullivan's office occupied the 3rd floor of a building near the courthouse. Glass desk, leather chairs, framed degrees on the wall. She shook my hand and gestured for me to sit. "Your current will leaves everything to your daughter Betty. You want to change this too?" I met her eyes. "The Veterans Assistance Fund of Arizona. Primary beneficiary. Betty receives $1. I want that specified. Exactly $1. She set down her pen. "Mr. Bishop, this is a significant change. Are you certain? Sometimes family disputes can be... I've never been more certain of anything. How quickly can you prepare this?" She studied my face, looking for doubt or anger or grief. She wouldn't find any. I'd moved past those. "I can have this ready by this afternoon. You'll need 2 witnesses for signing. May I ask what prompted?" I stood. Family showed me who they really are. I'm just responding appropriately. 3 hours later, I returned to her office. The document was ready. 2 paralegals served as witnesses. I signed my name 3 times, once on the original, twice on copies. The pen moved steady across each signature line. No hesitation, no regret. "I need all 3 copies," I told Margaret. She placed them in a folder and handed it across the desk. "The original will be filed with my office. These copies are for your records. Mr. Bishop, if you need to discuss..." "Thank you for your time, Ms. Sullivan." I drove home with the folder on my passenger seat. The trailer sat in my driveway exactly where I'd left it, cream and bronze in the afternoon light. I parked my car and walked to the trailer, the spare keys in my hand. The lock turned smooth. The door opened with a soft click. Inside, everything smelled new still. Zachary hadn't taken it yet. Would take it tomorrow, he'd said. I walked to the front, opened the glove compartment, and placed 1 copy of the will inside. Not hidden. Right on top, where anyone looking for registration or insurance papers would find it immediately. I stood there a moment, looking around the interior, the compact kitchen, the table where I'd spread my maps. This had been my dream, my reward for 35 years of careful work and careful saving. They'd turned it into theft. "Let's see how that vacation goes," I said to the empty space. I locked the trailer and walked back to my house. Through the living room window, I could see it sitting there, innocent, ordinary, waiting. I'd placed the document carefully, right where someone checking the vehicle registration or looking for the insurance papers would find it. I made coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. They'd be here soon. Zachary had said they were leaving in the morning. I checked the time. Any hour now. I stood at the window with my coffee, watching the street. 7:40 in the morning. The neighborhood was waking, garage doors opening, cars backing out, people heading to work. Normal Tuesday. Normal lives. Mine had stopped being normal the moment Zachary walked through my door yesterday. The black Lexus appeared at 8:15, followed by a silver SUV. Both vehicles pulled into my driveway. Doors opened. Zachary stepped out first, then Betty from the passenger side. Two children climbed from the back, Emma, 10 years old with her mother's face, and Lucas, 7, carrying a stuffed animal. My grandchildren. I'd sent them birthday cards, Christmas presents. They barely knew me. I watched them begin loading the trailer. Suitcases, coolers, beach chairs, an inflatable raft. They moved with the easy efficiency of a family on vacation, excited, anticipating adventure. Nobody knocked on my door. Nobody glanced at my window. I might as well have been invisible. Zachary unlocked the trailer with the keys he'd taken from my counter. He climbed inside first, checking things, then emerged and waved the family forward. They loaded supplies through the open door, stuffing storage compartments, arranging their belongings in my space. Then Zachary turned toward my house. He cupped his hands around his mouth and called out, loud enough for the neighborhood to hear, "Thanks for the trailer, Wiley. We'll take real good care of it. Might even send you some postcards." Betty touched his arm. "Zachary, just let's go." He laughed. "What? He can't hear us anyway. Probably sulking inside." Emma tugged at her father's shirt. "Dad, can we stop at the Grand Canyon?" Lucas jumped up and down. "I want to see the ocean." Zachary crouched between them, expansive, generous. "We'll see everything, kids. 2 whole weeks of adventure." They climbed into the trailer, Zachary in the driver's seat, Betty beside him, children in the back. The engine started. I watched them pull out of my driveway, turn left onto the street, and disappear around the corner. The entire process took 12 minutes. I sat down at my kitchen table and placed my phone in front of me. Checked the time. 8:27. They'd take Interstate 10 west, most likely. Phoenix to California, through Tucson, past the desert towns. 2 hours would put them past Casa Grande, maybe approaching Gila Bend. Far enough that turning back would be a decision, not a quick fix. I drank my coffee slowly, washed the cup, dried it, put it away, checked the time. 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10, 10:15. At 10:27, I picked up my phone and opened a new message. Zachary's number. I typed 4 words. Check the glove compartment. I pressed send and set the phone back on the table. 3 minutes passed. Then my phone lit up. Zachary calling. I let it ring. Voicemail. Another call. Voicemail. The screen didn't go dark. Immediately another call, this one from Betty. I let it ring through. By 10:45, I had 63 missed calls from Zachary, 28 from Betty, multiple voicemails. I tapped one, listened to the first 5 seconds. "Wiley, what's in the glove compartment? Call me back." I deleted it without finishing. Tapped another. "What the hell is this? You can't do this. Call me right now." Delete. Next voicemail. Betty this time, her voice breaking. "Dad, please call us. We need to talk about this, please." I set the phone down and opened the message screen, typed slowly, making sure each word was exactly what I wanted. This is only the beginning. Send. I placed the phone face down on the coffee table. The buzzing continued. Vibrations against the wood. Insistent. Desperate. Their panic was invisible from here, but I could imagine it. Zachary pulling over on the interstate's shoulder. Betty reading the will, her face going white. The children in the back asking what's wrong. Why did we stop? Are we still going on vacation? I walked to my office and opened the filing cabinet. Inside, I pulled out the folder I'd prepared the night before. Second copy of the will, paperwork for the trailer, purchase receipts, the original signed title. Everything with my name, my signature, my ownership clearly documented. I'd made another call that morning, one I hadn't mentioned to anyone. 7:30, before the coffee, before I took my position at the window. The Scottsdale Police Department. Non-emergency line. I explained my situation calmly, professionally. I've purchased property. Family members have taken it without permission. I have documentation. I'd like to file a report. Tomorrow morning I had an appointment. Officer Martinez. 9 o'clock. They were expecting me. I returned to the living room and picked up my phone. 81 missed calls now. I powered it off completely and set it in the desk drawer. Let them wonder. Let them panic. Let them realize that the old man they dismissed, the senior facility candidate, the one who didn't need a $45,000 trailer at his age, let them understand exactly what that old man could do when pushed. I made lunch, turkey sandwich, glass of water, ate it slowly at the kitchen table where Zachary had stood yesterday, where he'd grabbed my keys with such casual entitlement. The house was quiet. Outside, the empty space in my driveway where the trailer had been parked looked strange, incomplete. But I wasn't empty anymore. I was full of purpose, full of clarity, full of cold and perfect certainty about what came next. Morning light came through my bedroom window while I organized the documents at my desk. Purchase receipt from the dealership, $45,000. My signature, date stamped 6 days ago. Title certificate, Wiley Bishop, sole owner, no co-signers, no liens. Registration card, insurance policy declaration page, photographs I'd taken of the VN plate mounted inside the trailer door. I arranged them in order, slid them into a manila folder, and checked my watch. 8:15. The police station opened at 8. I dressed in the gray suit, same one I'd worn to Margaret Sullivan's office. When you're asking people to take you seriously, you dress seriously. 35 years selling insurance taught me that presentation matters almost as much as facts. Almost. The drive to the Scottsdale Police Department took 12 minutes. Modern building, tan stucco, American flag out front. I parked in the visitor lot and walked through glass doors into air conditioning and fluorescent light. A reception desk, plastic chairs, posters about crime prevention. A uniformed officer looked up from his computer. "Help you, sir." I approached the desk, placed my folder down, and met his eyes. "I need to report a stolen vehicle." Officer James Norton, his nameplate said, had the weathered face of someone who'd heard every story twice. He pulled out a form, clicked his pen. "What kind of vehicle?" "Recreational vehicle. Winnebago Vista trailer. Purchased 6 days ago for $45,000. My son-in-law took it without permission yesterday morning." Norton's pen paused. "Family dispute," his expression said. "Not real theft. I'd expected this. Do you have proof of ownership?" I opened the folder, turned it to face him. "Purchase receipt from the dealership. Title in my name only. Registration. Insurance policy. Also in my name. I can provide the VIN number and current location of the vehicle." Norton pulled the documents closer, examining each one. His expression shifted, professional interest replacing skepticism. "Current location? Interstate 10, westbound. He told me yesterday he was driving to California. Should be about 2 hours west of here by now." He began typing, entering information into his computer. "Did you give him permission to use this vehicle?" "No. He came to my home, took the keys from my counter, and drove away, despite my objections. I have a spare key set, which is how I secured my personal documents from inside the vehicle before he left." Norton photographed each document with his phone, logged the VIN number, asked for Zachary's full name and description. He typed steadily, asking questions, filling in blanks on his screen. The form took 20 minutes. When he finished, he looked up at me with something approaching respect. "Mr. Bishop, based on the documentation you've provided, this qualifies as unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Given the value, it's a felony offense. I'll enter this into the system immediately. Highway Patrol will locate the vehicle and make contact with the operator." "What happens then?" "They'll inform him of the theft report and give him options. Return the vehicle to you immediately, or face arrest for grand theft auto." I thanked him and left. Simple as that. Documentation, procedure, law. 3 pillars that held up civilization. Zachary had forgotten that, or maybe he'd never understood it in the first place. I drove home, made coffee, and sat by the front window. The empty space in my driveway looked less strange now. Soon it wouldn't be empty. My phone rang at noon. Norton's voice, professional and neutral. "Mr. Bishop, Highway Patrol located your vehicle approximately 70 miles west of Phoenix. Officers made contact with the operator. He's been informed of the theft report and is returning the vehicle to your address." "Was there any trouble?" "Some initial resistance. Claims it's a family misunderstanding. Officers explained that the title shows one owner, and you've filed an official report. He understood his options." I imagined the scene. Flashing lights in the rearview mirror. 2 patrol officers approaching with hands near their weapons. Standard procedure for vehicle theft stops. Zachary's confident smile evaporating when they told him why they'd stopped him. Betty crying in the passenger seat. The children confused in the back, asking why police were there, why their vacation had stopped. Thank you, Officer Norton. They should arrive at your location in approximately 2 hours. Do you need an officer present when they return the vehicle? No, I just want my property back. I ended the call and checked my watch. 2 hours. I refilled my coffee and returned to my window seat. The afternoon sun was hot, typical for August in Arizona. Dry heat, they called it, as if that made 110 degrees more comfortable. I thought about Zachary's face when the patrol officers approached. The moment he realized this wasn't just an angry old man making empty threats. This was the law. This was documentation and procedure and consequences. This was what happened when you stole $45,000 of someone else's property and thought family status made you immune. The coffee was cold when I finally saw the trailer turn onto my street. 2 o'clock, almost exactly. Zachary's Lexus followed behind it, Betty driving. The trailer pulled into my driveway, lurching slightly as Zachary braked too hard. The engine cut off. Nothing moved for 30 seconds. Then Zachary's door opened and he stepped out. His face was red. Sun or rage, I couldn't tell. Probably both. He slammed the trailer door hard enough that I heard it through my closed window. Betty emerged from the Lexus more slowly, her face blotchy and swollen. The children stayed in the back seat, pressed against the windows, watching. I stood up, walked to my front door, and stepped onto the porch. Didn't go to them. Made them come to me. My property. My driveway. My terms. Zachary stormed across the concrete, stopping 10 feet away, close enough to shout, not close enough to touch. You humiliated us. Police stopped us on the highway like criminals, in front of my kids. What kind of sick old man does this to his own family? I kept my voice level, conversational, the kind whose property was stolen. Stolen? The word came out strangled. We're family. You don't call the police on family. You took my vehicle without permission. That's theft. The police agreed. His hands clenched into fists. For a moment I thought he might actually swing at me. Part of me almost hoped he would. Assault on a senior citizen. Officer Norton would be interested in that. You think you're clever? Changing your will like some kind of revenge? We'll fight it. We'll have you declared incompetent. Clearly you're suffering from dementia, if you think this is acceptable behavior. There it was, the threat I'd been waiting for, the move I'd anticipated, predictable. Betty approached slowly, tears streaming. Dad, please. The kids are terrified. They don't understand why their vacation was ruined, why you're doing this to us. I looked at her directly. To us? Or to you, Betty? She flinched. I'm your daughter. How can you treat me this way? I treated you like family. I told you about my dream. You told your husband. He came and took it from me. So yes, Betty, this is how I treat people who do that. He's my husband. He made a mistake. Can't you forgive one mistake? Think about your grandchildren. The grandchildren, the guilt card. I'd expected that too. Zachary stepped closer, voice dropping to something harder than shouting. This isn't over. You'll hear from our attorney. We're filing papers tomorrow. You're clearly not mentally competent to manage your affairs. I held out my hand, palm up, waiting. He stared at me, confused. The keys, I said. His jaw worked. He wanted to refuse, wanted to throw them at my feet or into the street. But he'd learned something today, that refusing had consequences. He pulled the key ring from his pocket and dropped it into my hand. The metal was warm from his body heat. I closed my fingers around it, turned, walked to my front door. Behind me, Betty was still crying. Zachary was breathing hard through his nose. The children watched through car windows. I stepped inside and closed the door. Lock engaged with a solid click. Through the window, I watched them stand there for another minute. Then Zachary grabbed Betty's arm and pulled her toward the Lexus. They drove away. The trailer sat in my driveway, returned, but no longer representing dreams. Now it represented something else entirely. I went to my kitchen and poured the cold coffee down the sink. Tomorrow they'd filed their petition. Tomorrow the next phase would begin. Tonight I had calls to make. The letter arrived at 9:30 the next morning. I was drinking coffee on my back patio when I heard the doorbell, a courier in a uniform asking me to sign for delivery. Official legal-size envelope. Law firm return address embossed in the corner. Whitman and Associates, attorneys at law. I signed the electronic pad, closed the door, and opened the envelope standing in my kitchen. The paper was heavy, expensive. The language was formal. Petition for determination of incapacity. Grounds for belief that Wiley Bishop, age 63, lacks the mental competence to manage his financial affairs. Recent erratic behavior, including estrangement from family, making impulsive purchases, and initiating criminal proceedings against family members. Request for court-ordered psychiatric evaluation. I read it twice, slowly. They'd worked fast, consulted an attorney yesterday evening, filed this morning. Zachary was nothing, if not reactive. Every action of mine met with immediate counteraction. Predictable, almost disappointing. I set the petition on my counter and picked up my phone. Found the contact I'd saved 3 days ago, before any of this had started. Margaret Sullivan's direct line. She answered on the second ring. Ms. Sullivan, it's Wiley Bishop. I need to see you today. They've filed an incompetency petition. A pause. Then, I'll make time. Can you be here at 2? I'll be there at 1:30. I spent the morning gathering more documents. Bank statements showing consistent, careful financial management. Investment portfolios. Balanced, appropriate for my age and risk tolerance. Tax returns filed on time for 35 years. Performance reviews from my insurance career. Character references from former colleagues. Medical records from my annual physical 2 months ago. Blood pressure normal. Cholesterol managed. Cognitive function tested and recorded as excellent. By 1 o'clock, I had 3 folders prepared. Evidence of competence. Evidence of sound judgment. Evidence of a man who'd lived his entire life, making careful, rational decisions. One impulsive purchase, a trailer bought with my own money, didn't erase that history. Margaret Sullivan's office felt cooler than I remembered. Or maybe I was just tired. She gestured to the chair across from her desk, read through the petition while I waited. Her face revealed nothing. This is aggressive, she said finally. Usually incompetency petitions involve genuine cognitive decline, medical evidence, family reports of confusion, dangerous behavior. This is, she tapped the paper, retaliatory. Can they win? Do you want the legal answer or the practical answer? Both. Legally, they have to prove you lack capacity to manage your affairs. Given your documentation, medical records, and the obvious retaliatory nature of this filing, they'll lose. Practically, it'll be expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally exhausting, which might be the point. They're trying to punish you for not letting them have what they wanted. I'd known that already. How do we respond? We file a counter motion. We present your medical records, financial history, and character witnesses. We argue this is a frivolous petition filed in bad faith. And, she leaned forward, we go on offense. We file a restraining order preventing them from entering your property or contacting you. We document their harassment. We make this more expensive for them than it is for you. Do it, she made notes on a legal pad. I'll need your medical records released to me, your financial documents, permission to contact character witnesses, former colleagues, neighbors, anyone who can testify to your competence and stability. I slid the 3 folders across her desk, already prepared. She opened the first folder, flipped through bank statements, investment reports, tax returns. A smile touched the corner of her mouth. You're making my job very easy, Mr. Bishop. 35 years in insurance. I know how to document a claim. This isn't just documenting a claim. This is... She closed the folder, met my eyes. This is building a case for why they shouldn't have access to your assets. Ever. You understand what you're doing? I'm protecting what I worked for. You're also severing your relationship with your daughter. Permanently. Once we file the restraining order, once we argue they're harassing you for financial gain, there's no walking that back. I thought about Betty's face yesterday. Tears and accusations, using her children as weapons, never once acknowledging what Zachary had done, never once defending me or asking if I was okay. File everything. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Routine calendar, Margaret explained. Both sides would present evidence. A court-appointed psychiatrist would evaluate me. The judge would rule. They'll try to settle before then, she added. Once they see your documentation and realize they're losing, they'll offer to drop the petition if you restore them to your will. And if they do, what do you want me to tell them? I stood, collecting my empty folders. Tell them no. The next 2 weeks passed slowly. I went about my routine. Grocery shopping, gym, lunch with 2 former colleagues who'd agreed to serve as character witnesses. Normal life, competent life. The life of a man who knew exactly what he was doing. Betty called 4 times. I didn't answer. She left voicemails. The first was angry. How dare you file a restraining order? You're destroying this family. The second was pleading. Please, Dad, we can fix this. Just drop everything and we'll forget it happened. The third was desperate. Zachary didn't mean it. He's sorry. We're all sorry. Please. The fourth was silent except for crying. Then the line went dead. I saved all 4 voicemails. Documentation. Zachary sent an email. Subject line. Final offer. I opened it standing at my kitchen counter. We'll drop the incompetency petition and leave you alone. In exchange, you restore us to your will and sign over the trailer title. Otherwise, we're going to court and we'll drag this out for years. Your choice. I forwarded the email to Margaret Sullivan without responding. She replied within an hour. Perfect. He just documented his extortion attempt in writing. Save this. The psychiatric evaluation happened on a Wednesday afternoon. Dr. Patricia Chen, court-appointed, met me at her office in downtown Scottsdale. She asked questions for 90 minutes. My medical history, my career, my relationship with Betty, the trailer purchase, the will change, my decision to call the police. I answered every question honestly. No embellishment, no self-pity, just facts. She administered cognitive tests, memory exercises, pattern recognition, problem-solving scenarios. I completed them all easily. At the end, she closed her notepad and looked at me directly. Mr. Bishop, do you understand why your daughter filed this petition? Yes, she wants my money. That's somewhat reductive. It's accurate. She smiled slightly. My report will be ready for the court by Friday. I can't discuss my conclusions with you, but I will say this. Nothing in your behavior suggests cognitive impairment or inability to manage your affairs. What you're experiencing is a family conflict, not a competency issue. I thanked her and left. The hearing was scheduled for Monday, 3 days away. Margaret called me Friday evening with an update. Dr. Chen's report came through. It's excellent for us. She found you fully competent, noted the retaliatory nature of the petition, and recommended immediate dismissal. Whitman called me an hour ago. They want to settle. What are they offering? They'll drop the petition. In exchange, they want you to drop the restraining order and consider restoring them to your will. No. I told them you'd say that. They're going to proceed to the hearing Monday. Good. Wiley, they're going to lose, badly. The judge will see this for what it is. Harassment. You'll win. I know. Then why do you sound disappointed? I looked out my kitchen window at the trailer in my driveway. 3 weeks since I'd bought it. 3 weeks since my life had split into before and after. Because winning shouldn't feel this empty. Monday morning arrived with clouds, unusual for August. I dressed in my suit, drove to the courthouse, and met Margaret in the hallway outside the courtroom. Betty and Zachary stood at the opposite end. Different attorney now, Whitman must have withdrawn. This new lawyer looked young, uncomfortable. The hearing lasted 40 minutes. Margaret presented Dr. Chen's report, my medical records, my financial documentation, character witness statements. The opposing attorney tried to argue emotional instability, pointed to the will change as evidence of impaired judgment. Judge Catherine Rhodes, efficient, mid-50s, with zero patience for nonsense, cut him off mid-sentence. Counselor, changing one's will is not evidence of incompetence. It's evidence of autonomy. Do you have any medical evidence of cognitive impairment? Your Honor, the defendant's recent behavior that includes proper documentation, legal consultation, and appropriate use of law enforcement when his property was stolen. That's not impairment. That's good judgment. Petition denied. The gavel fell. One sharp sound. Over. Betty stood frozen. Zachary's face went white, then red. Their attorney gathered papers quickly, avoiding eye contact. I walked out of the courtroom with Margaret. Didn't look back. On the courthouse steps, she turned to me. The restraining order stands. They can't contact you without violating it. The will change is protected. Your competence is established on record. You won everything. Yes. Why don't you look happier? I watched cars pass on the street. Normal people, normal lives, going about their Monday. Because I didn't want to win this. I wanted not to need to. She touched my arm briefly, professional sympathy. I'll send you my final bill. Call if you need anything. I drove home alone. The trailer sat in my driveway, exactly where it had been for 3 weeks. I hadn't been inside it since the day I'd placed the will in the glove compartment. Hadn't started planning trips. Hadn't spread maps across the table. I unlocked it now and stepped inside. Everything smelled stale. I opened windows, letting August heat flow through. My phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. You destroyed your family for money. Hope it was worth it. I deleted it without responding, blocked the number. Then I sat down at the small trailer table and pulled out the maps I'd folded 3 weeks ago. Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, Montana, all the places I'd wanted to see. I traced the routes with my finger, but something had changed. The excitement was gone. The anticipation was gone. What remained was just colored paper and highway lines. I folded the maps and put them away. Tomorrow I'd call the dealership, see what they'd offer for a 3-week-old trailer with 800 miles on it. Someone else could chase those dreams. Mine had been taken the moment Zachary walked through my door. The court had given me justice, but justice wasn't the same as restoration. I locked the trailer and went inside my house, poured a glass of water, sat at my kitchen table, alone. I called Margaret Sullivan before I'd finished my second cup of coffee. The incompetence petition sat on my kitchen counter, legal paper reflecting morning light. She answered on the first ring. Wiley, I received a courtesy copy of the petition. They're claiming diminished capacity based on your recent erratic behavior, meaning the will change and police report. How strong is their case? Weak without evidence, but these proceedings can drag on. We need to be proactive. What do you recommend? Get comprehensive medical evaluations from independent physicians before any court-ordered assessment. Establish your mental competency on the record. 2 doctors. Complete cognitive workups. Neurological examination. Documentation they can't dispute. I made the appointments that afternoon. Dr. Patricia Hendricks for Wednesday. Dr. Robert Chen for Friday. General practitioner and neurological specialist. Cover all bases. Dr. Hendricks's office was in North Scottsdale, modern building with desert landscaping. She was thorough, took my medical history, reviewed my medications, blood pressure, cholesterol, both managed well, asked about family history, lifestyle, exercise habits. Then the cognitive tests began. Mr. Bishop, I'm going to give you 3 words to remember. I'll ask you to repeat them in a few minutes. The words are apple, table, penny. Can you repeat those? Apple, table, penny. She had me count backward from 100 by 7s. Name the current president. Recall what I'd had for breakfast. Draw a clock face showing 3:15. She asked about current events. What happened in the news this week? I told her about the hurricane in Florida, the economic report, a Supreme Court decision I'd read about. 20 minutes later. Now what were those 3 words? Apple, table, penny. She made notes. Smiled slightly. Your cognitive function is excellent, Mr. Bishop. Memory, attention span, reasoning, all within normal parameters. Actually better than average for your age group. Dr. Chen's examination was more technical. Neurological reflexes, coordination tests, spatial reasoning assessments. He had me walk heel to toe across the room, touch my nose with alternating index fingers, identify patterns in visual sequences. Do you do puzzles? He asked, reviewing his findings. Crosswords? Your reaction time and processing speed are impressive. Insurance policies, I told him. Spent 35 years reading fine print. Keeps the mind sharp. Both doctors provided detailed written reports on official letterhead, complete cognitive assessments, neurological examinations, conclusions, no evidence of dementia, cognitive impairment, or diminished capacity. Patient demonstrates sound judgment and decision-making abilities. I delivered both sealed reports to Margaret's office the following Tuesday. She opened them, read carefully, nodded with satisfaction. These are excellent. Court-appointed psychiatrists would reach the same conclusions. Their incompetency petition just became much harder to defend. She placed the reports in my file, then paused, flipped back through older documents, stopped at one page. Her expression changed. "Wiley, do you remember this?" She held up a document. "3 years ago, you executed a gift deed for your house to Betty. Value at that time was $340,000. Current value probably $380,000. I studied the paper, my signature at the bottom, Betty's next to it. 3 years ago, 6 months after my wife died. I'd wanted Betty to have security, wanted her to know she'd always have something substantial. I remember, after my wife passed, I wanted Betty to have security. Margaret set the document on her desk between us. "This is a revocable gift deed. You can take it back." The words hung in the air. Take it back. Under what circumstances? Arizona law allows revocation if the recipient shows gross ingratitude to the donor. Given what's happened, taking your property, filing for incompetency, the nursing home comment, I believe we have grounds. I looked at the document again. The house. The place my wife and I had lived for 23 years. The place I'd raised Betty. The same house where Zachary had walked in and taken my keys, where he'd suggested a senior facility. She doesn't know the house is technically hers. She thinks it's still mine, part of the future inheritance. Which means revoking it becomes... Margaret paused, choosing her words carefully. Educational. I sat back in my chair. The gift deed, created out of love, signed in grief, intended to protect. Now it could be revoked, legally, justifiably. "What else is in my file?" I asked quietly. Margaret pulled out another folder. "Life insurance policies, 3 of them. Total death benefit $250,000. Beneficiary on all 3 is Betty." "Yes." We looked at each other across her desk. The gift deed lay between us, slightly yellowed with age. My signature clear at the bottom. I remembered signing it, remembered thinking I was protecting her, making sure she'd have something substantial when I was gone. Now that protection had become a weapon, Margaret pulled a legal pad toward her and uncapped a pen. "If we're going to revoke this gift, we need to document the ingratitude thoroughly. The trailer incident, the police involvement, the incompetency petition, all evidence. We'll also need to review your other assets." She looked up. "Life insurance policies, retirement accounts. Who's listed as beneficiary?" I felt something shift inside me. Not anger anymore. Something colder. Something more permanent. "Betty," I said. "On everything." Margaret's pen moved across the paper. "Not for long." Margaret spent the next hour drafting documents. Her fingers moved across the keyboard steadily, occasionally pausing to reference Arizona statute books stacked on her credenza. I sat across from her, providing dates, details, specific incidents. "I'm citing 4 specific instances of gross ingratitude," she said, typing. "First, unauthorized removal of your property, valued at $45,000. Second, involvement of law enforcement in a family matter, causing public humiliation. Third, the nursing home comment, on record, Zachary said it in front of me in my own house. Yes. And fourth, the filing of a frivolous incompetency petition despite documented medical evidence to the contrary." She stopped typing, reviewed what she'd written. "This is airtight, Wiley. Any judge would uphold the revocation." She printed the document, handed it to me. Official legal language. Revocation of gift deed. Citing Arizona revised statutes. Documenting each instance of ingratitude with dates, witnesses, police report numbers. Clinical. Factual. Devastating. "The house at 2847 Desert Willow Drive," I read aloud. "Current assessed value $380,000. She'll receive this via certified mail, along with legal citations explaining her right to contest, which will fail given the evidence." Margaret pulled out 3 more forms. Life insurance beneficiary change documents. 3 separate companies, 3 separate policies, 28 years of premium payments. These 3 policies, total death benefit is $250,000? Correct. Currently, Betty is listed as primary beneficiary on all 3. We're changing that to the Veterans Assistance Fund, same as your will. I read through each form carefully. My insurance agent training made me thorough with paperwork. Each form required signature, date, new beneficiary information. I signed the first one, then the second, then the third. Each signature felt final, permanent. She'll receive notification. Each insurance company will send confirmation. She'll know exactly what she's lost. Margaret's assistant came in, collected the documents, prepared certified mail envelopes, 1 for the gift deed revocation, 3 for the insurance confirmations, affixed tracking stickers, documented everything. Bureaucratic but essential. Proof of delivery. Margaret paused before sealing the envelope containing the gift deed revocation. Wiley, I need to ask, are you certain about this? Once we send these letters, there's no easy path back. Your relationship with your daughter. I cut her off, firm but not angry. My relationship with my daughter ended when she stood by while her husband stole from me. These documents just make it official. She sealed the envelope. The certified mail went out Tuesday afternoon. By Thursday morning, my phone had erupted. 15 missed calls from Betty, 2 from Zachary, multiple voicemails. I was back at Margaret's office when her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, put it on speaker. Yes, this is Margaret Sullivan. Yes, I represent Mr. Bishop. No, there's no negotiation. The revocation is legally sound. The beneficiary changes are his right. Your clients demonstrated gross ingratitude. It's documented. No, Mr. Bishop won't be taking any calls. She hung up, looked at me. They're panicking. I picked up my phone, scrolled to the voicemails. Put one on speaker so Margaret could hear. Zachary's voice filled her office. Furious, threatening. You're making a huge mistake, old man. You think you can take back the house? We'll tie you up in court for years. You'll be dead before this is settled. And we're not backing down on the incompetency hearing. Everyone will see what a vindictive, senile... I stopped playback. Save that, Margaret said, making notes. Add it to the evidence file. Threatening language toward elderly family member. This helps our case. Betty's voicemails were different, not threatening, pleading, crying. The first 3 were incoherent, just sobbing and fragments of sentences. The 4th was clearer. Dad, please, I need to talk to you. Just me, not Zachary. Please, I'm coming over tomorrow morning. Please be home. I checked the timestamp. 20 minutes ago. Tomorrow morning. Friday. I left Margaret's office with copies of everything. The revocation notice, the insurance beneficiary changes, Zachary's threatening voicemail transcribed and documented. The Arizona sun hit me as I stepped into the parking lot. Hot. Relentless. September in Phoenix felt like punishment. I sat in my car without starting the engine. Looked at my phone again. 17 missed calls total now. All but 2 from Betty's number. What could she possibly say? That she was sorry? That Zachary made her do it? That she'd had no choice? Everyone had choices. She'd made hers. But curiosity won. I scrolled back to her last voicemail, the one about coming over tomorrow. Listened again to the desperation in her voice. Just me, not Zachary. Separate from him. That was new. I started the car and pulled out of the parking lot. The drive home took 30 minutes through afternoon traffic. I spent it thinking about what she might say, what I might say back. Nothing, probably. There wasn't much left to say. But I'd be home tomorrow morning. If she wanted to talk, I'd listen. Once. My phone buzzed with a text message as I pulled into my driveway. Betty, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. Tomorrow. Just give me 30 minutes. Please, Dad. I read it twice. Then I turned off my phone and went inside. The house was quiet. Empty. The trailer sat in the driveway, still unused. 3 weeks since I'd bought it. 3 weeks since everything had fallen apart. I made dinner, grilled chicken, salad, rice, ate alone at my kitchen table, washed the dishes, dried them, put them away. Tomorrow Betty would come. She'd apologize or explain or beg. It wouldn't matter. The documents were filed. The certified mail was delivered. The gift deed was revoked. The insurance beneficiaries were changed. All legal, all documented, all final. I went to bed early but didn't sleep. Lay in the dark thinking about 3-year-old signatures on gift deeds, about protection and betrayal, about the difference between being a father and being someone's insurance policy. My phone was still off. Let her wonder if I'd read the text. Let her worry I wouldn't be home. I'd be home. I'd listen to whatever she had to say. And then she'd leave, and it would be over. I was at my kitchen window when Betty's car pulled into the driveway. 9:30, Friday morning. Alone. No Zachary in the passenger seat. That was significant. I opened the door before she knocked. She'd been crying. Her eyes were swollen, mascara smudged. Her hands shook as she stood on my porch. "Dad, please, can we just talk? Just the two of us?" I stepped aside, gestured toward the living room. "You wanted to talk. I'm listening." She sat on the edge of the couch, the same couch she'd sat on growing up. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, movie nights when she was 10 years old. The memories hung in the room like ghosts. I never wanted any of this. The trailer, the police, the legal fights. This isn't what I wanted. I sat in the chair across from her, not beside her. Distance mattered. "Then what did you want, Betty?" Her voice broke. "Zachary pushed for everything. The trailer was his idea. Filing the incompetency petition was his idea. I just went along because he's my husband, and I didn't know how to stop it." "You didn't know how to say no to him, but you knew how to say nothing when he humiliated me?" She looked down at her hands, twisted her wedding ring. "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" For all of it. For not standing up to him, for letting things get this far." I leaned forward, asked the question I'd been holding since that morning in my driveway. That day when he took my keys, when he suggested dropping me at a nursing home like I was trash to be discarded. "You were there. Why didn't you defend me?" Long silence. She stared at her lap. 30 seconds passed. 45. I don't know. I should have. I'm sorry. You do know. You chose him over me. You're just not willing to say it out loud." Her tears came harder. "I love you, Dad. I do. But he's my husband. I have to live with him. I have to—" "You have to choose. That's what you're saying. You chose him then. You're choosing him now. It's not that simple." "It is that simple." I stood, walked to the window, looked out at the trailer in my driveway. "I'll stop everything. The gift deed revocation, the insurance changes, all of it. The house becomes yours again. The inheritance stays intact. One condition." Hope flickered across her face. "Anything." "What?" "File for divorce. Remove Zachary from your life. Choose your father over your husband, the way you chose your husband over your father." Her expression changed. Shock first, then comprehension, then anger. "You can't ask me to do that. That's manipulation. That's blackmail." I turned from the window, looked at her directly. "No, Betty. Blackmail is threatening someone to get something you're not entitled to. I'm entitled to respect from my daughter. I'm offering you a choice, the same choice you gave me when you stood silent while he stole from me. You chose then. Choose now." She stood, grabbed her purse. "This is cruel. You've become cruel. I've become fair. There's a difference." She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the knob. "You're going to die alone and bitter." "Maybe. But I'll die knowing I didn't let people walk over me. Even family." She left. The door closed with a soft click. I watched through the window as she sat in her car for 5 minutes, crying. Then she started the engine and drove away. I'd expected to feel something, satisfaction maybe, or vindication. Instead, I just felt tired. Old. The house was quiet. Evening came. My phone buzzed with a voicemail. Zachary's voice, furious. "You sick piece of work? Asking her to divorce me? What kind of father does that? You're going to pay for this. We'll drag you through every court in Arizona. We'll make sure everyone knows what a manipulative, vindictive old man you are. This isn't over. Not even close." I played it once on speaker. Then I forwarded it to Margaret with a 2-word message. More evidence. Her response came within minutes. "Perfect. This helps if they escalate. Are you ready to move forward with the house sale?" I looked around my living room. Betty had sat on that couch an hour ago, crying. Before that, countless family dinners, birthday celebrations, movie nights when she was young. The house held decades of memories, but memories weren't enough to override betrayal. I typed my response to Margaret. "Yes, list it immediately. I'm ready to move on." I set the phone down and walked to my home office. In the desk drawer, I had a folder of real estate listings. Small houses in Sedona, a town I'd always wanted to explore. Mountain views, quiet streets, far enough from Phoenix to be a fresh start. I pulled out the folder and spread the listings across my desk. One caught my eye. 2-bedroom, Mountain View, $220,000. I circled it with a pen. Time to stop looking back. Margaret and I met Monday morning to finalize the gift deed revocation. The document sat between us on her desk. Official, stamped, ready for filing. This is it, Wiley. Once I file this with the county recorder, the gift deed is officially revoked. The house is yours alone. Are you ready? I signed my name across the bottom line. I'd been ready since the moment I understood what was happening. This just makes it official. She witnessed my signature, added her notary seal. For what it's worth, I think you handled this with remarkable restraint. Many people would have been far more vindictive. I'm not trying to destroy them. Just protect what's mine. She filed the documents that afternoon. By Wednesday, the house was legally mine again. 3 years after I'd gifted it to Betty out of love, it was back in my name because of betrayal. David Torres, the real estate agent, put the for sale sign in my front yard Thursday morning. I watched from the window as he hammered it into the lawn. The house I'd lived in for 23 years was now just a property transaction. The listing went live Friday, multiple showings over the weekend. By Monday afternoon, David called with 3 offers. Mr. Bishop, all cash buyers, all wanting quick close. Highest is $392, can close in 2 weeks. Take it, I don't need top dollar. I need to be done with this place. Are you sure? We might get asking price if we wait. I'm sure. Accept the offer. While the house sale processed, I drove to Sedona. The listing I'd circled was still available. 2-bedroom, Mountain View, $220,000. I walked through empty rooms, stood on the back patio looking at red rocks rising in the distance. The realtor talked about square footage and recent upgrades, but I barely heard her. This works. This is enough. 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for an office. Kitchen overlooking the mountains. No neighbors too close, no memories. Just space to breathe. I bought it cash. Signed papers the same day. Margaret called that afternoon with an update. Betty and Zachary's attorney called again. He wanted to discuss settlement options. I told him there's nothing to settle. Everything you did was legal. The incompetency hearing has been dismissed. The judge reviewed your medical evaluations and found no grounds. What did he say? He asked if you'd be willing to meet with Betty one more time. I said I'd ask, but I already know your answer. You do. The Phoenix house closed 2 weeks later. I signed the final papers in a title company office, received a cashier's check for $392,000. Added to my savings, I had enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life, on my terms. I spent the next week packing. The trailer that had caused so much trouble finally served its purpose. Clothes, maps, camping equipment, travel guides. I loaded it methodically, checking items off my list. My insurance agent training, everything documented, nothing forgotten. The morning I left, I drove north instead of south. Phoenix to Flagstaff, then west to the Grand Canyon. I'd planned this route months ago, back when I first bought the trailer. Back when Betty's voice on the phone had deflated my joy. Now I was reclaiming it. I parked at a scenic overlook, stepped out into September morning air. The canyon stretched before me, vast, ancient, indifferent to human drama. I stood beside my trailer, the vista behind me, and took out my phone. One photograph. Me and the Winnebago Vista with the Grand Canyon in the background. I typed a caption. Turns out I did need this after all. Sent it to Betty. Then I put my phone on airplane mode and climbed back into the trailer. I didn't wait for a response. Didn't need one. Whatever she felt about that photo, anger, regret, bitterness, it didn't matter anymore. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. The highway stretched west from the canyon, empty and open. I had no schedule, no deadline. Monument Valley tomorrow, maybe. Arches National Park next week. Eventually Yellowstone, if the weather held. My phone sat silent in the cup holder. Margaret had sent a final email that morning before I left. All proceedings closed. Incompetency case dismissed. Gift deed revocation recorded. You're free and clear. Free and clear. I like the sound of that. The trailer handled well on the highway, steady and reliable. I'd worried it would feel too big, too unwieldy, but it moved like a natural extension of my intentions. Miles passed beneath the tires. Phoenix fell away behind me. Sedona waited 4 hours south whenever I wanted to return to my new house, my new life, but not yet. First, I had places to see. I'd waited long enough. The retirement I'd planned, the dream I'd saved for, the journey I'd earned, it was finally happening. On my terms, in my trailer. Alone, but not lonely. Betty and Zachary had thought they could take this from me, had thought an old man wouldn't fight back, had thought family status granted them immunity from consequences. They'd learned otherwise, not through my cruelty, through my documentation, through my preparation, through my refusal to accept that love meant tolerating theft. The road curved ahead through desert landscape, red rocks and blue sky. I followed it west, then north, then wherever the map suggested. No one waiting for me, no one expecting me, no one who could take this away. Just the road, the trailer, and the freedom to choose my own direction. I'd spent 63 years being careful, being responsible, being the person everyone could rely on. Now I was being something else, not reckless, not careless, just free. The sun moved across the sky, the miles accumulated, and somewhere ahead, around the next curve or the one after that, my real retirement was waiting. Not the one I'd lost when Zachary walked through my door, the one I'd fought to reclaim. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.